Namaste, myself Reni Khurana, Assistant Professor, Faculty Physiotherapy and Diagnostics, JVN Rajasthan. Today we are going to discuss about post-polio syndrome. Post-polio syndrome is a neurological condition that affects nerves supplying the muscles, causing muscle pain and weakness. It only affects people who previously contracted the polio virus and can affect people many years after recovery of the initial infection. Diagnosis: Doctor will normally be able to determine a diagnosis of post-polio syndrome by taking a detailed medical history and a neuromuscular examination. This will also enable doctor to rule out other conditions that have similar symptoms. It is important for survivors of polio with post-polio syndrome to consult a doctor trained in neuromuscular disorders, as they can carry out tests which includes MRI, CT, neuroimaging, muscle biopsy, spinal fluid analysis. Causes: Post-polio syndrome only affects survivors of the initial polio virus. The cause of post-polio syndrome is unknown, but some theories suggest that post-polio is caused by deterioration of motor neurons that remain in the body after the original polio virus. Other theories suggest that the initial polio virus lies dormant in the body over many years and it can reactivate after time. Possible triggers for this reactivation include illness and physical or emotional trauma. Symptoms: Post-polio syndrome affects muscle, causing pain, weakness, and wasting. A person with post-polio syndrome will feel tired and may have difficulty concentrating. Other symptoms include difficulty swallowing, difficulty breathing, memory problem, irregular sleep, depression. If patient have post-polio syndrome, symptoms likely to get worse over time. Physiotherapy is a cornerstone of management of prior polio and post-polio syndrome. There is an increasing evidence for the effectiveness of physiotherapy in alleviating PPS-associated physical problems. Patients with prior polio or post-polio syndrome should have access to regular physiotherapy assessment, and treatment should be made available when needs are identified. These needs are likely to change with time, thus patient-centered, lifelong physiotherapy is recommended. Assessment: A comprehensive and detailed assessment is necessary at the first consultation to establish a baseline from which future changes can be evaluated and a treatment plan developed. An assessment will usually have three components: neurological, musculoskeletal, and cardiorespiratory. A detailed subjective history should be taken first, and important aspects of the subjective history includes: what was the age of the patient at polio onset? Was diagnosis confirmed at the time or at later date? What was the severity at polio onset? What muscles were affected? Was the patient hospitalized? Was the patient ventilated? Was any surgery performed? What was the course and extent of recovery? And what was the patient's functional status at peak recovery? Questions are pertinent to assess the risk of post-polio syndrome. Significant risk factors for developing post-polio syndrome include a longer time since onset, adolescent and adult onset, severe weakness at onset, and later functional recovery. Other questions may be asked: what is the patient history of the use of aids and appliances both during the course of recovery and presently? Aids and appliances may include wheelchair, powered or self-propelled, gated, walking frame, sticks, crutches, orthotic devices, caliper, splint, braces. Next question: what, if any, are the patient's new symptoms, onset, location, type, pain, fatigue? Differentiate between a subjective feeling of overwhelming exhaustion and need to rest and motor fatigue, which is an ability of muscles to maintain maximal activity. Muscle weakness, cramps, fasciculations, atrophies, Respiratory problems including breathlessness, difficulty breathing, difficulty expectorating, sleep apnea, daytime sleeping, headache, use of mechanical ventilation, musculoskeletal degenerative changes, intolerance to cold, fall, alteration in gait. A standard neurological exam should be performed with particular attention paid to skeletal muscle strength. Prior polio patients may have significant weakness as a result of the initial acute illness. Weakness is asymmetrical and can affect different muscle groups within an individual to varying degrees. New weakness in previously affected or unaffected muscles, decreased muscular endurance, gait changes, history of falls, decreased function, other lower motor neuron signs, decreased tone, reflexes, muscle atrophy. According to Hasselt criteria, the gradual onset of new neurologic weakness in the previously affected or unaffected muscles is one of the cardinal symptoms of post-polio syndrome. The gradual decline in muscle strength is thought to result from isolated degeneration of enlarged motor units. However, those not meeting the criteria for post-polio syndrome may also experience new weakness as a consequence of disease, trauma, chronic wear and tear, or pain. New weakness has been found in 38% to 71% of patients studied, with both previously affected and unaffected muscle involvement. This weakness can be progressive 3-4 at a rate of 1% or 2% per year. New weakness manifests as muscle atrophy and decreased mobility, endurance, and function. Those who had made a significant functional recovery despite significant weakness can experience a huge deterioration in function on the loss of a relatively small proportion of the strength. Gait may be altered as a result of new weakness, and falling can be a problem, particularly in those who have lower limb muscle weakness. Physiotherapists should pay particular attention secondary to muscle weakness and not surgical procedures such as joint fusion or tendon transfer that may have occurred in the past and affect strength. Musculoskeletal. A standard musculoskeletal examination should be performed with assessment of areas of pain identified in the subjective assessment. Range of motion of joints should be recorded objectively and a detailed postural examination performed as deformity can change with time. Detailed biomechanical evaluation should be incorporated as complex biomechanical problems are frequent. Pain is one of the most commonly described symptoms in prior polio patients with 38 to 86 reporting muscle pain and 42 to 80% joint pain. Risk factors. Female gender, weaker lower extremities, weaker at the time of onset, younger at the time of onset, higher activity, mobility levels, higher exertion on activity, nerve compression syndromes, including carpal tunnel syndrome, commonly occur. Muscle pain is more frequently reported in the lower limbs and can be due to cramps, fasciculation, and muscle overuse. It can occur at rest but is mostly reported on activity. Those with muscle pain have shown to have higher severity and duration of fatigue and lower scores. Joint pain can be due to overuse of joints, the use of mobility aid, and abnormal biomechanics. Conditions associated with chronic musculoskeletal wear and tear, such as OA, bursitis, tendonitis, myofascial pain, are common. Pain in the legs and lower back occur more commonly in patients who are independently ambulating, while upper limb pain affects those who use crutches or manual wheelchairs. Shoulders, knees, lower back, ankle, feet are most frequently reported sites of pain. Pain is more commonly reported in those with higher activity intensity levels and higher perceived exertion rating, suggesting that polio survivors who are more active experience more pain. Many also experience significant physiotherapy and post-polio syndrome discomfort due to cold intolerance. The patient will complain that their limbs are cold and cold exposure produces weakness. Reduced pulmonary function results from the virus affecting the medullary respiratory center, the muscles of respiration, and the cranial nerves. It may be accompanied by thoracic cage deformity, example kyphoscoliosis. As many as 42% with prior polio may complain of new breathing problem. Patients who require ventilator support at polio onset and those with polio onset after 10 years of age are at higher risk of developing new breathing problems. Patients who did not require ventilation at polio outset may also develop new breathing problem. One report found that 33% of ambulatory prior polio patients who were free from cardiorespiratory distress and did not have any significant chest wall involvement at the outset of polio complained of shortness of breath, and that those with shortness of breath had a significantly lower percent predicted FEV1 and FVC. Patient cardiorespiratory status may appear normal at rest, but impairment can be ruled out unless formal exercise testing have been carried out. The cardiorespiratory assessment should include a careful history, measurement of peak flow, oxygen saturation, interpretation of results of pulmonary function test. In patients complaining of fatigue, morning headache, sleep disturbance, difficult arousal, daytime somnolence, impaired concentration, impaired memory, irritability, chronic alveolar hypotension, and sleep apnea should be suspected and patients referred to respiratory specialist. Forced expiratory techniques such as coughing and huffing to assess a patient's ability to expirate secretion effectively should be assessed. In patients who are using ventilatory support, physiotherapists may be involved in assessing the patient's carer's ability to apply and manage equipment. Ventilatory support may be in the form of oxygen therapy, non-invasive positive pressure ventilation, maybe oral, nasal, or combined, or in extremely rare cases, negative pressure body ventilation in the iron lung. Post-polio syndrome cardiorespiratory endurance can be assessed subjectively by asking the patient how far they can walk without getting breathless or with the physiological cost index. Formal exercise testing can be performed where specialized equipment is available. Optimally utilize available muscle mass. Avoid use of painful or recently weak limb during an exercise test. Use equipment does not require complex motor coordinations. Use submaximal exercise test. A detailed assessment of transfers and mobility, including gait analysis, should be carried out as majority of the post-polio patient complain of difficulty mobilizing and going upstairs. Walking speed will probably significantly slower. Spontaneously chosen walking speed is much closer to maximal walking speeds in prior post-polio compared with healthy, indicating that prior polio subjects may perform daily activities as close to the maximal capacity. Some of the more common biomechanical abnormalities also seen: genu recurvatum, knee flexion contracture, inadequate dorsiflexion in swing, dorsiflexion collapse in stance, genu valgum, mediolateral ankle instability. Now, gait analysis should include an evaluation of any orthosis or calipers to ensure correct fit, state of repair and suitability. Orthoses that were prescribed years ago may no longer be suitable for the patient, and new orthoses have the potential to improve gait, decrease the energy cost of walking, and subjectively improve the ability to walk. It is imperative that the physiotherapist liaises with the orthotist or prothesist in this example. Gait aids should be frequently assessed for wear and tear and metal fatigue and replaced where necessary. The physiotherapist may need to liaise with occupational therapist with regard to the need for provision of wheelchair. Meeting with carers is recommended to assess carer need and perhaps provide additional information pertinent to the patient. Of particular importance is the assessment of carer manual handling skills where there is a higher level of patient independence. Outcome measures. The outcome measures have been used in research involving post-polio patients and may be of use in assessment. The River-Mead Mobility Index, dynamometry, maximum voluntary isometric contraction, timed walk, physiological cost index, Nottingham Health Profile, visual analog scale for pain and fatigue, fatigue severity scale, short form health survey, that is SF36, the paper fatigue scale, post polio syndrome physiotherapy management. Some early cases reports suggest that exercise resulted in further damage to already vulnerable motor units and resulted in increased weakness. Other early studies found, however, that progressive resistive exercises produce improvements in muscle strength. Recent studies have found that appropriate, carefully monitored exercise program can be of benefit to prior polio patients. Thank you.